Ebony, do you think vaccine passports are necessary for interstate travel?
Well, they shouldn't be necessary. And I think it's a real failure on multiple levels that we're even having this conversation. I mean, it was very recently that the government was talking about punitive measures for citizens returning from India. And I think having vaccine passports like this is probably a bad idea for the same reason. It creates a two-tiered kind of level of citizenship. We shouldn't need a passport to travel between states in Australia. And the only reason that we're talking about it, let's be clear, is because the vaccine rollout is way behind schedule and because of the mixed messaging coming out in public health terms about the value of getting vaccinated and because there's so much hesitancy within the community now. So I think you've seen a lot of pushback against this idea, both from within the medical community and other state leaders, for very good reasons. We should be prioritising a faster vaccine rollout. Otherwise we're going to be talking about people not being able to travel interstate because the federal government is failing to roll out vaccines fast enough. That's not fair on anybody.
James, I have a feeling you might agree with Ebony on this one.
Yeah, the frantic nodding might have given that away. I thought Ebony's comments there were fantastic. Look, if vaccine passports are seriously on the agenda, then Scott Morrison needs to come out and say exactly what it means to be an Australian citizen, because right now it doesn't seem to amount to much. We saw that over the India travel ban where you couldn't even re-enter your own country of origin, and now we're seeing it with vaccine passports which prohibit your ability to travel within your own nation. This creates a two-tier level of citizenship based off the idea of whether or not you have a vaccine. And I mean, surely there are some legal rights that are going to triumph over panic scares about COVID. I'm less sure of that every day, but surely there have to be. And look, I'll speak for myself here. I'm 27, I'm fully healthy. I'll be one of the last people in the country to get a vaccine. How long do I have to wait to stop being a second-class citizen if these passports come in and to rejoin the rest of society? 1 year, maybe 2? That is just not something that can happen.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. Scott Morrison has backtracked on his suggestion that COVID could be treated like a bad flu. He says it's still not safe, it's too risky to start thinking about reopening the borders. Ebony, do you think this response is good enough?
No, and it's an example of the kind of mixed messaging that we've seen from the federal government, more or less from the beginning. At the beginning of the pandemic, Scott Morrison was talking about, well, we're going to have to live with the virus. This is just what we're all going to have to cope with until the state premiers kind of stepped in and were very clear about the kind of massive public health emergency that we were facing. And now, he's flirted again with, oh, maybe it's a bad flu. Or now that it seems to be more politically popular, it's more important and it's dangerous that we keep the borders closed for much longer than anticipated. So I think it's really important the federal government does step in here. I'm with Gladys Berejiklian. I think we need more ambition. We need a faster vaccine rollout. We need to be looking and planning towards opening the borders and our economy as soon as is safe. And again, that lack of vaccine rollout, how slow it's been, is holding back the economy and the rest of the country. And the federal government isn't doing a good enough job. Neither is it doing a good enough job on the public health messaging. It has to be clear that this is dangerous, but what are the benefits of getting the vaccine for the community, because the community is hesitant, and it's understandable with all the mixed messaging that they're getting. And, I just think back to the beginning of the pandemic. It was Norman Swan and ABC 730 that told me what social distancing was, why I should be wearing a mask, why it might not be a good idea to go and visit my grandparents while there was outbreaks in the community. It seemed to take the federal health response quite a while to catch up to that. And I think we're seeing those same mistakes being repeated with the vaccine rollout now.
James, do you think we need a plan to reopen with our borders by now?
Absolutely. Ebony, if you could stop stealing all of my lines, that would be fantastic. This is absolutely ridiculous messaging coming from the government. And yeah, we can't keep living on this idea that everything's going to return to normal when Scott Morrison or the state premiers deem it safe. That's just not a yardstick anyone of us can know. It's just something that they feel. We need a date that borders are going to reopen, and we need a date to which we can stop fearing that another lockdown is going to take place. The government's getting away with this idea that they can just say, oh, it's not safe yet, oh, it's not safe yet, oh, it's not safe yet. It's not good enough anymore. We need dates.